is someone who many of the younger people in the audience may not be aware of, but will be receiving some much overdue recognition tonight. Justina Bricka's athletic prowess took her to the heights of the tennis world in the late 1950s and early 1960s. In 1961, she was called up for the United States Whiteman Cup team, the annual tennis competition between the U.S. and Great Britain, where Justina scored a win over Angela Mortimer, a former world #1 player and three-time Grand Slam singles title holder. Justina was a quarterfinalist in the women's singles at Wimbledon in 1965. A very strong doubles player, her best year came as the partner of Margaret Smith in 1962 with 7 tournament titles and a runner-up finish at the French Championships. And we wondered how this international tennis star of the 50s and 60s got her start right here in St. Louis.
I was born February 15, 1943 in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've lived here my whole life. I started playing tennis when I was about 9. I was in the summer U-City grade school day camp, and I got dropped off every morning at the swimming pool because it had swimming and tennis. And I went there the first day, but after the first day, I hated putting my head underwater. Tennis has impacted my life greatly. I love to travel, and it enabled me to do that all across the United States, throughout Europe. But I'm very proud of playing on the Whiteman Cup team in 1961, and I wound up getting to play the deciding match, which was thrilling because I defeated Angela Mortimer, who was the reigning Wimbledon champion that year.
Already inducted into the St. Louis Tennis Hall of Fame, tonight please welcome into our St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, with your applause, Justina Bricka. Inducting Justina's interview will be Hall of Fame committee member and St. Louis sports historian, Ed Wheatley.
Well, Justina, I think this is perfect timing. What just ended? U.S. Open up in New York just ended this weekend, right? So how is it to come with one of the golden girls of tennis from the 1960s, Justina Bricka? You were one of the top 10 players in America during the 60s. So, we're going to fill this in. How does a girl from U-City wind up sailing on the Queen Elizabeth to Europe to play at Wimbledon? And by the way, if you get a glimpse of Justina here, that necklace she has just had made, she had that made from one of her medals at Wimbledon. So you want to see what you get at Wimbledon, there's one of her medals right there on her thing. So tell us how you got to be that, go to Europe and all that.
Thanks, Sam. As I said just a minute ago, I started in clinics at U-City, Heman Park, in grade school camp, and I couldn't stand swimming, so I stuck with the tennis and wasn't too good at it to begin with, but I was having so much fun, I just got better and better. I never took private lessons, but continued to go to Mr. Earl Buchholz's clinics at Heman Park, at Tower Grove Park, and then in the winter, in a gym down on Washington, off of Kings Highway. And that was terrific for the winter. I remember down there, I won what was called a toss-up contest. And the prize was getting to go downtown to Stixbury and Fuller, meet with Mr. Buchholz, and get a brand new wood racket. It was great. All the rackets were wood back then, by the way. So that was the start of it.
Yeah, so St. Louis was the tennis hub of America in the late 50s and 60s going into the 70s. I mean, we had Arthur Ashe, Jimmy Connors, Chuck McKinley, Butch Buchholz, Marianne Eisel, Carol Hanks, and you. You all became Grand Slam players, and it all started right here in St. Louis. What was it about St. Louis that made tennis so special here?
Well, I think it was because we had clay courts and hard courts to play on all summer, and then in the winter, it was unbelievable. We had a place called the Armory, and the Armory was a very special place with its wood floors. We could play all winter there from September through to March.
And just so the people know, the armory she's talking about is the one they just renovated on Highway 40.
Right, and that's where the Tennis Hall of Fame is relocating to, so that'll be terrific. They were very, very fast courts, and that really helped me because my favorite surface was grass, like at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, or at Forest Hills, as it was called then. But we played a lot of doubles because we only had 5 courts, and we had many, many players. Others besides the one Ed just mentioned. We had a lot of good players. It was incredible. One year in the 60s, the city of St. Louis alone had more top 10 ranked players in the country than did the whole state of California. And that was almost unheard of.
So let's go back to that U.S. Open we talked about. Then it was called the U.S. National Championship. But you were all amateurs. You weren't professionals. You weren't getting the big bucks like they're getting today. But at age 16, Coco, when she won this weekend, she's 19. But you were 16, and your first Grand Slam match ever was against another up-and-comer, her first match as well, named Billie Jean Moffitt, soon to be Billie Jean King. And you beat her, and she remembers that still. I hear that a lot. So tell us about that first match when you took on and beat Billie Jean King.
Thank you. Yes, it was very special for me, but it was also special for Billie Jean as well. Many times in describing her career, she noted how I beat her in that match. The one thing that people don't realize back in those days, that we were all playing as amateurs. There weren't the big payoffs that you read about nowadays. There was no money, and the players who won tournaments would receive a trophy. If you won, you got this trophy, but no money. Even when you traveled, you stayed as guests in the homes of local people in the cities where you were playing. But I was fortunate. I met many people with whom I have become lifelong friends.
Yeah, and you played all over the world. You played singles, you played doubles, you played mixed doubles. You played at Wimbledon, the French, the Irish, the Italian, the Swiss championships. You won the Irish and Swiss, and you were runners-up in others. But there is that one special moment, the Whiteman Cup. You won the decisive match to bring that trophy back to America. The Whiteman Cup was a women's tournament that was always held up from the 1920s to the 80s, and it's kind of like the women's version of the Davis Cup you hear about. And they quit it at the end of the 80s. But you came up and won that last decisive match. It was kind of like David Freese, a little walk-off home run thing for her country, So tell us about the Whiteman Cup.
Well, for me, it was a thrill because it was comparable to the men's Davis Cup. And I got to play for my country. It was just unbelievable. And I won. It was definitely the biggest thrill of my young career. Then, when I retired from tournament tennis, I got married, had a family, and then was asked to be the head teaching pro at the brand new Frontenac Racket Club. I remained there for 30 years, teaching as manager, and as an owner. But then in 1980 and 81, the WTA, Women's Tennis Association, called and asked me to be the tour referee of the Avon, formerly the Virginia Slims, women's tour. That was very valuable experience. For one thing, it forced me to learn the rules of the game. But it was great fun to be back out there with completely different players. I got to know Chrissy, Martina, Tracy, and especially to see how the game had changed and progressed. I lived and breathed tennis my whole life, and that's what made it such a joy to teach others, young and old, to see a lot of them pick up tennis and love and enjoy the game as I did and still do. My love for tennis has never faded, never. And I want to give special thanks to Ed Wheatley here tonight for sponsoring me and for all his guidance in doing this, and all the members who selected me for my tennis career. It's such an honor to be included in a class alongside such outstanding athletes and contributors from my hometown, and join those who have already been inducted in previous years. I'm truly grateful. And it's a real thrill being here tonight with family and so many friends. I was born in 1943, and all I can say is thank you, St. Louis, a wonderful place to grow up, live, and grow old.
So here's a lady who heard the chants of USA, USA. We love her in St. Louis, what she did, all the greats she played with, and all the kids in St. Louis that may not have made it to the greatness, but they learned tennis through this lady here. And that's why we're here inducting you tonight.